A true horror story that will haunt you on every night drive. If I hadn't seen it myself, I'd have thought it was just another trucker's tale. But what followed me on that road wasn't a man, wasn't a machine, and sure as hell wasn't from this world. You ever find yourself driving so late at night that the road starts to feel like a dream? I'm talking real late. Past the part of the night where even the gas stations are shuttered. Past midnight, past 2 a.m. That strange dead-hour space where the world just feels thinner, like if you said the wrong thing out loud, something might answer back. That's where this story begins. I've been hauling freight for 8 years now. Cross-country runs, local drops, weird overnight jobs. If it pays, I'll drive it. You get used to long, lonely hours on the road. Most guys plug in their music, put on a podcast, or call someone to pass the time. Me? I enjoy the silence. Something about the steady rhythm of tires on asphalt calms me, clears the head, or it used to. This job was supposed to be simple. I'd picked up a load of commercial kitchen equipment in a warehouse outside Kansas City and was scheduled to deliver it to a supplier down in New Mexico. They booked me on a solo night run to avoid traffic and shave some time off the delivery. Paid well too. No co-driver, just me and the open road. I left around 9 p.m., planning to make decent ground before stopping for a few hours of sleep. The route took me onto this long empty stretch of Route 54. If you've never driven it at night, let me paint the picture for you. Miles and miles of nothing. No towns, no service stations, just black top slicing through farmland and scrub. Every so often you might see an old barn, a rusted mailbox, or some busted-up sign half-eaten by weeds. Other than that, it's you, the stars, and the dark. I remember the night air being weirdly still. No breeze, no bugs on the windshield, no truckers on the CB. Just dead silence, like the whole world hit pause. And I remember thinking, damn, I could get used to this kind of peace. Then I saw it. It started like this, a faint glow in the rearview mirror. At first I thought it was another big rig catching up behind me. Maybe someone with their high beams on, or maybe one of those souped-up trucks with aftermarket lights. But the light didn't look right. It was too white, too sterile, like hospital lighting or the kind you'd see in a lab. And it didn't flicker or bounce like headlights do when hitting uneven road. It was smooth, steady, unblinking. I glanced at my side mirror. Nothing. Checked the rear view again. Still glowing. Something about it made my skin crawl. There was no sound, no rumble of an engine. Nothing but that silent glow following me from just far enough away that I couldn't quite make out what it was attached to. I tapped the brakes. A bit. Dropped speed. Figured maybe I was tired, hallucinating. It happens sometimes. You miss sleep and the road starts to play tricks on your mind. But the glow slowed with me. I mean perfectly. I'd go 55. It'd go 55. I'd tap up to 60. It matched, flawlessly. That's when the first real wave of unease hit me. My stomach twisted in that way it does when something's wrong, but your brain can't put a name to it yet. I flipped on the CB and tried to hail. Breaker 19, this is Highway Jack. Anybody riding 54 tonight? I've got a tail behind me. No lights, no tags. Static, no answer. I tried again. Nothing. Now let me make something real clear. Route 54's remote, yeah, but there's always somebody on it. Even at night, other truckers, state troopers, locals cutting through. But that night, dead air. It was like I'd dropped off the map. I pulled out my phone. No service. Not 2 bars. No service. I mean 0. Blank screen. GPS stuck spinning. The glowing light stayed right behind me, not gaining, not falling back. Just there. And the silence in the cab was deafening. No static from the radio. No hum from the engine. It felt like sound itself had stopped. At that moment, a terrible thought crept into my head, and once it was there, I couldn't shake it. What if it's not behind me? What if it's following me from somewhere else, above, beneath, inside? I shuddered, literally, hands trembling on the wheel. I've never had a panic attack before, but I think I got close that night, and still, I kept driving. Because what else do you do eventually? Curiosity and fear got the better of me. I leaned over and glanced once more in the rearview mirror, and I finally saw it. It wasn't a regular truck, not even close. The thing behind me was massive, longer than a standard. 18-wheeler, jet black. No reflective surfaces, no logos, no visible driver, and no headlights. The glow I'd been seeing wasn't coming from the front. It was coming from inside the cab, as if the interior was lit up with some unnatural white light, and the truck's tires weren't spinning. I swear on everything, I watched that thing roll silently down the highway behind me, and its wheels weren't moving, it just glided. That's when I floored it. I know how this sounds. Believe me, I do. But that was just the beginning. What happened next goes beyond fear, beyond logic. It's the kind of thing that changes how you see the world and makes you pray there's nothing else on the road with you. Not when the night gets too quiet, not when the light starts to follow you, and definitely not when you're too far from help to turn around. Because on that highway, I wasn't alone, and something wanted me to know that. You ever feel something watching you, not in a paranoid way, but deep down, like some old animal instinct kicks in and your spine just knows? That's what those lights felt like. Not headlights, eyes. I don't scare easy, you can't do this job for long if you do. It's not just potholes and traffic you've got to deal with. It's fatigue, isolation, the real psychological wear and tear of being alone out there with your own thoughts for hours, sometimes days, at a time. So believe me when I say this. I wasn't just scared that night. I was unmade. It started with a glow in the rear view, but it wasn't the usual warm yellowish hue of headlights. It was clinical, white, cold, the kind of light that doesn't chase shadows. It erases them. At first I thought maybe I was being tailgated by a newer rig with some ultra-bright LEDs. I figured maybe the guy was in a rush. Happens all the time. But something was wrong with the way the light moved. Or didn't. The glow didn't dip with bumps or curve with the terrain. It stayed locked in place behind me, perfectly level, steady, unblinking. I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing there. I adjusted the side mirror, still no vehicle behind me. And yet, the light was there, right there in the rear view. That's when I realized this thing wasn't using headlights. It was emitting light like it was a source itself. Like the cab was glowing from the inside out, I reached to flick the interior dome light on, just something to cut the creeping tension in my chest, and it didn't work. Just nothing. Dead switch. I tried the dash cam, then my phone. Neither responded. Phone was stuck spinning, no signal. GPS froze. Radio, a constant static hum. And outside, the world had grown quieter, not like when your ears pop and everything mutes. This was worse, like I'd stepped into some soundproof box and didn't realize it until it was too late. No engine noise, no tire noise, no hum of the road beneath me. Just silence. I wasn't about to just coast into the unknown with some unholy abomination tailing me, so I floored it, pushed the engine past where I was comfortable, past where the needle usually lives. 70, 75, 80. My trailer groaned. The wind slapped at the cab and the tires screamed against the road. I flew past the speed limit sign like it was a suggestion from a world that no longer applied. I stole a glance in the rear view. Still there. Same. Distance. Same unnatural glow. Only now the light seemed brighter. Not by much, but enough. Like it was noticing me noticing it. Now I'm starting to sweat. Hands gripping the wheel like I'm trying to strangle it. I leaned forward, eyes flicking between the road and that cursed mirror. I could feel it, not just see it, not just know it was back there. I could feel that truck pressing against the space around me, like it was chewing up the miles between us without actually moving, like it was bypassing time altogether. That's when the road started to feel off. Route 54 is a two-lane blacktop for most of that stretch, smooth in parts, rough in others. You come to expect the familiar bumps, dips, and potholes. But suddenly, everything felt too smooth, like the road had been polished, like I wasn't even on asphalt anymore, but glass. The white divider lines stretched longer. Then they started to melt. That's not metaphor. They literally looked like they were drooping like heat-warping paint on a hood, and then the trees started closing in. They hadn't been there before. Not this close. Branches arched over the highway like bony arms. Some dipped low enough that I swear I saw bark scraping against my side mirrors, but I never heard a sound. Because there was still no sound, not even my engine anymore. I looked in the mirror again, and that's when I saw the figure. It was in the cab of the glowing truck, only just visible through the frosted glow, like looking through an old bathroom window. Humanoid shape. But wrong. Slender in places where people aren't. Shoulders too high, neck too long, limbs too off, and it was leaning forward, like it was pressing against the inside of the windshield, looking right at me. My breath caught. My chest tightened. I couldn't look away. I swear I saw its mouth move. Not open, not scream, just move, like it was talking, like it was saying something just under the level of hearing. Something meant only for me. That's when the road shimmered again. My high beams flickered like a dying flashlight. And the scream came, the cab filled with static. My CB crackled to life without me touching it. The radio dial spun on its own. Then I heard it, a scream, buried in the static, muffled, but human, real, terror in its purest form. And it came from inside the truck. It lasted less than 5 seconds, but I can still hear it even now. Not because of the volume, not because of the pain, because it sounded familiar, like my voice, screaming. Like I was hearing myself die from somewhere up ahead on the road, or maybe from somewhere I hadn't reached yet. I jerked the wheel instinctively, veering toward the shoulder, heart racing, sweat pouring down my back. The lights didn't follow, they didn't shift, sway, or falter. They pivoted, like the truck didn't need to turn. It just reoriented itself with me, like a cursor dragging. Across a screen, I had this crushing realization then. This thing, it wasn't chasing me. It was mirroring me, like it was locked to me, attached, tracking every choice, every twitch, every breath. And if I stopped, if I hesitated, if I let it catch me, I didn't know what would happen. But I knew it wouldn't. Be human, and it wouldn't be quick. As the minutes passed, or maybe it was hours, time had no meaning anymore, the road itself started to feel less real. The sky turned charcoal gray, not black but dull and empty, starless, moonless, cloudless. It was just a ceiling of void. The signs on the side of the road? Gone. The occasional mile marker. Now just crooked wooden posts with no text, leaning, like they'd been there 100 years. I didn't pass a single other car. Not one. It felt like I was driving in a snow globe that someone forgot to shake, stuck in the same moment over and over again. But the truck was still behind me, always behind me, just waiting. By the time I started to lose my grip on reality, I realized something truly horrifying. I hadn't just stumbled into this thing's path, I'd been pulled in, and the further I drove, the more it felt like I wasn't in the world anymore. I was in its. There are things in this world that we were never meant to see, and when you do, it's not about surviving anymore, it's about escaping with your sanity intact. I used to believe everything had a reason, that even the weirdest stuff, glitches in memory, unexplained chills, lost time, could be explained away with logic, fatigue, or stress. But logic doesn't help when the road itself starts disappearing beneath your wheels, when you're driving. 85 miles an hour and can't feel the engine anymore, when the thing behind you isn't a truck anymore. You know how people say ghosts come with a cold spot? Or some say it's the smell, like rot or sulfur. Me. I didn't get cold, I got hot, sweaty, panicked, dizzy. And the smell that filled the cab was so thick it felt like I could chew it. It was ozone and burned metal, but with something else underneath. Something organic, like wet fur, old blood. And the inside of a long-sealed tomb. It crept in through the vents even though I'd shut off the AC. My eyes started to water. My throat tightened, I gagged, rolled down the window, no wind. Just that stink pouring in like the truck wasn't just behind me, it was already inside. It happened so fast I nearly swerved off the road. I blinked, and the world restarted, like a hiccup in time. 1 second I was passing a rusted road sign that said South 54. The next second, it was back. Same exact sign, same leaning post, same busted bullet hole in the 5. It happened again, and again. I passed the same sign 4 times. No turnoffs, no loops, no gas stations or side roads, just the same 300-foot stretch of cursed blacktop repeating itself like a broken vinyl record. And the lights in the mirror, they were closer now, not much, just a foot, maybe 2. but close enough that I could see the outline of the shape inside more clearly. It had no face, at least not one I could understand. It looked like a hole where a face should be. A hollow, but something inside it pulsed, like a heartbeat. Had to try something. Slamming on the brakes at 85 isn't smart, I know, but I couldn't keep running in that loop. I was losing it. I had to confront this thing, or die trying. The tires screamed. Smoke clouded up around the cab. The trailer fishtailed hard to the left, almost tipped me over. But I managed to stop dead, heart pounding, breathing like I'd just run a marathon. I sat there for maybe 30 seconds, then I looked, and what I saw behind me wasn't a truck anymore. It had grown. The frame of the vehicle was still there, barely, but it looked melted, warped. Twisted metal bones stretched out like claws. Tires fused into the ground like roots. The cab was bulging, misshapen, as if something inside was too big to fit. And from that cab, it stepped out. I didn't get a good look. My brain wouldn't let me. I remember flashes, too many joints, limbs that didn't move, but glided, a torso that split open like a mouth, and eyes, no, not eyes, lights, just like the glow from the mirror. Only now. They were looking at me and they were hungry. I tried to move, I couldn't. I was frozen, paralyzed, not by fear, but something else. Something invisible, pressing down on me like gravity had quadrupled. My limbs refused to listen. My mouth couldn't scream. It started moving toward the cab, toward me, with this sickening twitch, like stop-motion claymation come to life. And just when it reached the passenger door, I blinked, and it was gone. The road was empty, no lights, no sound, no smell. The cab was normal again. My hands were shaking, but I could move. I could breathe. The mirrors were blank. The highway stretched ahead, cracked and sun-bleached in the glow of the rising sun. Wait. Sun. I checked the clock. 12 a.m. Somehow, the entire night had passed. I drove to the nearest diner and sat in my truck for 10 minutes before I could make my legs work. I didn't even order food. Just coffee. Black. I drank 3 cups in silence, staring at the reflection of the parking lot in the window. No one believed me. When I called dispatch to say I'd be late, the guy on the other end said, "You made the drop already yesterday." Thought he was messing with me. He wasn't. The delivery had been marked complete by me, but I don't remember making it. I don't remember anything after that creature reached my door. Whatever I saw, whatever it was, it took something from me. Time, memory, maybe more. And sometimes when I'm on the road late at night, I still see those lights in the mirror. Not every time. But enough to know it's still out there. Watching, waiting, and the next time I stop, I don't think I'll wake up on the other side. You ever try to leave a nightmares and realize the nightmare isn't a dream? It's a place. And once it knows your name, it never lets you leave. After that night, after whatever thing stepped out of that phantom truck and looked me in the face, I told myself I was done. I was done with night runs. Done with Route 54. Done with driving altogether, maybe. But it doesn't work like that. When something reaches across the veil and touches you, it stays with you. You might leave the highway, but the highway doesn't always leave you. The week after the incident, I didn't work, didn't shower, barely ate. I just sat in my apartment, curtains drawn, door locked, with a chair jammed under. The knob like some paranoid loner from a conspiracy podcast. People called. I ignored them. Dispatch tried 3 times to send me new routes. I said no. Then the owner of the delivery company showed up at my place, all friendly concern and corporate. "Charm, you okay, Jack?" he asked. "You haven't returned a single call. You're one of our best drivers." I tried to tell him what happened, about the truck, the figure, the smell, the loop. He smiled like someone listening to a child describe a nightmare. Polite, skeptical. Then he said something that made my blood run ice cold. "You were on camera the whole time, man. How he saw your whole route on the GPS looked normal to me." I blinked. "Wait, what? Yeah, the footage has already been archived. No anomalies. Smooth ride. You made good time." "No," I whispered, feeling the walls start to tilt. "No, I stopped. I saw something. There was a truck." It followed me. It wasn't right. He gave me a pat on the shoulder like I was some confused grandpa in a retirement home. "Jack, take a vacation. Get some rest. Come back when you're clear-headed." Then he left. And the moment that door closed, I heard the low hum from inside my walls. I started hearing it everywhere. Not constantly, just in flashes, when I passed a mirror, when I turned off the lights, when I tried to sleep. That low-frequency hum, like an engine idling in another dimension. Not loud enough to pinpoint, but deep enough to feel in your bones. Sometimes, I'd catch a reflection in dark windows, not mine. Someone sitting in the passenger seat of my truck, even when I was home. Even when the truck was locked and parked outside. One night I snapped. I told myself, "Fine, one more drive, one more look. If it's not real, if I'm losing it, I need to know." So I packed light, left a note. No destination, just one goal. Get off Route 54. I figured I'd take a completely different highway. Something far from Kansas, far from anything familiar. A whole new route. I left at midnight. Not because I wanted to drive at night, but because I knew if it wanted me, it would follow no matter when I left. I just wanted to face it on my terms. I took Highway 287, headed west through Colorado. Nothing familiar. Nothing from that cursed night, or so I thought. For the first hour it was quiet, too quiet. Then the temperature dropped. The windshield fogged from the outside. And the road signs? They started looking wrong. They were aged, peeling. Some had strange names I didn't recognize. One just said, "No exit," in bold black letters on a rusted background. Then my GPS glitched out. Again. The screen turned to static, and a voice whispered through the speakers, not loud, not clear. "He sees you." I made a hard turn at the next junction. Any junction, just trying to change direction. Didn't matter. The road curved back onto itself like a snake eating its tail. Same signs, same blacktop, same empty horizon. And in the mirror, there it was. The glow. Not headlights, just light. That same white, sterile glow bleeding from the cab of that impossible truck. No engine noise, no shadows. Just presence. Unnatural. Patient. Closer. I floored it again. No use. I pulled over and tried to get out. Door jammed. Cab locked from the inside. And then the radio flipped on by itself. Dead air. Then breathing, long, slow and wet, like something too big to fit in its lungs was trying anyway. I slammed the horn, hit the brakes, punched the dash. Nothing worked. The road wouldn't let me off. Every exit led back to the same lane. Every curve reset the horizon. It was like I'd been locked into some pocket dimension, some hollow loop carved out of the real world and built just for me, and the truck behind me. It was getting braver. I could feel it pushing against the back of the trailer now, not hitting, not shaking, just nudging, letting me know it could touch me, any time it wanted. I thought I could escape it. I thought if I just avoided the road, changed my route, stayed awake, stayed alert. But the truth is, it wasn't about the highway. It was about me, and now it had my scent. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 5? I thought the worst part was being chased by something unseen. Turns out the worst part is when it climbs in beside you like it belongs there. You ever have that feeling like you're not alone, even when you're definitely alone? I started getting that feeling about 2 weeks after the night on Route 54, the night the phantom truck vanished on me, but didn't really leave. I was driving the usual night shifts, trying to push the memory away, but the highway had changed. Or maybe I had. The cab felt different, not broken or damaged, just wrong. Like the fabric of the truck's soul had been warped. It was somewhere near Lincoln, Nebraska. The road stretched dark ahead. The only sound was my own tires humming on the asphalt and the faint, restless drone of the engine. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a shape. At first, I thought it was a trick of the streetlights, a shadow cast by the empty passenger seat. But it moved, just slightly. A tilt of a head. A twitch of a shoulder. My breath caught. I didn't dare look right at it. I forced my eyes forward, but the feeling didn't leave me. Minutes later, I glanced again. There, in the passenger seat. A figure. At first, it looked like a man, someone who'd slipped in when I wasn't paying attention. Broad shoulders draped in a worn jacket. a hoodie pulled low, shadowing the face. I tried to tell myself I was hallucinating, that it was my mind playing tricks, tired from the endless nights and lonely roads. But my heart hammered when I finally looked. The face wasn't a face. Not blank, not a void. More like a TV screen tuned to no signal, flickering grey and white noise, the static swirling, almost breathing. I swear the static moved with purpose, pulsing, as if something was trapped inside, trying to push through. And in that flicker, I swear it smiled, not with lips but with presence. A cold, hungry smile that reached straight into my chest. Then I heard it, not from my ears, not from the radio, inside my head. A voice, calm, soft, repeating like a broken record, skipping over the same line. You opened the door. You opened the door. You opened the door. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The smell of burnt metal and something rotten filled the cab, thick and suffocating. The passenger side window cracked just a tiny bit, and the radio sparked with static. I had to get out. I tried to pull over at the next exit, but my GPS flickered. The exit sign was gone. Then, without warning, the road curved sharply, and I found myself facing a rusted rest stop that hadn't been there before. Lights flickered erratically, casting eerie shadows across broken bathroom stalls and a battered vending machine buzzing softly like a dying heart. I stopped, slammed the brake, and yanked open the door, wanting to get away from whatever was sharing my cab. My legs felt like jelly as I stumbled out onto the cracked asphalt, heart pounding. When I looked back into the truck, the seat was empty. No static face, no hungry smile, just silence. But then the CB radio crackled to life on its own, static at first, then a whisper barely audible. He opened the door. He opened the door. He let us in. I slammed the radio off, but the words stuck in my mind. I climbed back in and wiped the fog off the inside of the windshield. Written there in a long, curling script was a message I'll never forget. We ride together now. No matter what I did, the words kept reappearing. The defrost couldn't erase them. The wipers couldn't wipe them away. It was like the message was carved into the glass itself, etched with ice and fire. I made it home by dawn, locked every door, twice. But mud tracked inside my apartment told me I wasn't alone. Boot prints, passenger side prints, leading from the door to my couch. There, folded neatly, was a note. 4 words, keep driving or else. The hitcher was no longer just a shadow. It was a presence, a warning, a threat. And now it's in my cab, in my mind, in my life, and it's not planning to get out. Sometimes the last stop isn't on any map. Sometimes it's where the road ends and the nightmare begins. That note on my couch, and keep driving or else. It sat like a dark cloud over my every waking moment. I tried to ignore it, tried to forget. But the road had a hold on me now, like it had claimed my soul. And when the company texted me that night with a new route, no address, no destination, no GPS coordinates, I knew it wasn't just another delivery. It was the delivery. The text came through at 11:57 p.m. Jack, your final route is assigned. Pick up at midnight. Location, undisclosed. Estimated arrival, indefinite. Good luck. My fingers hovered over the screen. I wanted to throw the phone, to call them and tell them I was done, but I couldn't, because a voice in my head, that static-faced hitcher, whispered, "You opened the door. Now finish the delivery." I pulled on my jacket, slipped into the cab and turned the key. The engine roared to life like a beast waking. The night outside was black as a tomb. The truck's dashboard lights flickered, as if sensing the weight of what was coming. Beside me, the hitcher sat silently, a figure flickering with white noise and static, an impossible smile etched across his blank face. No words, no movement, just presence. I rolled onto the highway, GPS dead, radio alive only with static whispers. The air inside the cab thickened, and the temperature dropped like ice seeping through my bones. The highway signs twisted into rusted, peeling warnings, no exit. Dead end, final stop. Miles bled away, but the landscape never changed. Barren trees reaching like skeletal fingers. The sky heavy and grey. The road itself felt alive, folding and twisting, warping under, the weight of something ancient and hungry. After what felt like hours, the road simply stopped. A weathered warehouse stood before me, shadows pooling at its edges. The only light came from the phantom truck's headlights, blinding and unnatural, casting long, flickering shadows. My heart hammered as I stepped out. The hitcher's presence hovered just behind me. I carried the package the company never showed me, heavy, cold, and wrapped in an old, cracked paper that felt like skin. No labels, no instructions, just wait. The warehouse door groaned open like a scream. Inside, darkness swallowed the room, thick and suffocating. Shadows writhed and twisted, reaching out, as if hungry for the package I carried. The hitcher's voice echoed, not through my ears, but inside my head, relentless. You opened the door. Now close it. Every reflective surface flickered with that static face, the endless twisting smile. The shadows reached closer. I ran. I don't know how I got out. I just remember bursting into the cold night air, lungs burning, heart pounding. The warehouse door slammed shut behind me, the phantom truck gone. The road? Back to normal. The night? Quiet. The package was gone. The note disappeared. And the company? No record of the route. But sometimes, just sometimes, when the night is heavy and the road is empty, I feel the hitcher's cold presence beside me, watching, waiting, riding shotgun for the long haul, because some deliveries don't end at the destination. They follow you home. So next time you're driving late on a dark, empty highway and you see those headlights behind you, remember, some rides aren't meant to end. And some passengers, they don't ever get out. Thanks for listening to a delivery driver's encounter with a phantom truck. Stay safe out there and keep your doors locked. If you think you've seen scary stuff on the road, think again. This tunnel changed everything I thought I knew about fear. Man, I've been hauling freight for over 2 decades now. Seen every kind of road, sunshine, storms, ice, you name it. But that night, that drive, it was different, real different, like something out of one of those horror flicks you don't want to admit you love. I was rolling a late-night shift on a route I'd run 100 times before. It's the kind of highway that snakes through the mountains, twisting, turning, enough curves to keep you sharp but not nervous. You know the type, nothing fancy, just the road and the night. So there I was, just me and the rig, my rig, cruising. Along with the radio off because I was tired, and sometimes silence is better than that static. The air was cold, too cold for spring, and a thick mist had started settling in the valleys and low spots along the road. Nothing too weird. Fog's part of the game on these back roads. But then, I saw it. A tunnel. I swear I hadn't noticed before. Just suddenly there, nestled in the mountainside like it was hiding from the world. The sign above it made my blood run cold, and I'm not kidding. Tunnel of Terror. Enter at your own risk. Now I'm a trucker who's seen his share of roadside gimmicks and tourist traps, so I laughed it off. Probably some old haunted tourist junk, I told myself, flipping on the high beams to get a better look. But the fog was so thick around, that entrance, it almost swallowed the whole thing. It looked like something out of a nightmare just waiting to pull you in. Still, I hesitated. There was this weird feeling crawling over my skin, like when you realize something's wrong but can't quite put your finger on it. The kind of gut punch you get before a bad crash or an argument you wish you'd never started. I debated pulling off and calling it a night, but the clock was ticking. I had a delivery to make, and turning back meant losing time and money. So I took a deep breath, gripped the wheel tighter, and rolled right in. The moment my truck's wheels crossed the threshold, everything changed. It was like driving into another world. The fog wasn't just outside anymore. It was inside the tunnel, thick and choking, wrapping around the rig like a wet blanket. My headlights barely pierced the gloom. The walls felt like they were closing in, cold stone pressing in on me from all sides. And the silence. Oh man. The silence was the worst part. Usually tunnels have that constant rumble, the echo of your engine, the squeak of your tires, even distant voices or horns. But here, nothing. It was as if the whole tunnel had swallowed every sound except the steady beat of my own heart. Then, something caught my eye in the passenger side mirror. A shadow. A flicker. I turned my head but saw nothing. When I glanced back, there it was again, something standing just at the edge of the fog, barely visible. At first I thought it was a construction worker or a lost hiker. But as I got closer, my stomach flipped. It wasn't a person, not really. The figure was tall and thin, but its movements were unnatural, jerky. Its face was pale, almost translucent. And its eyes... God. Its eyes were black pits that seemed to suck in the light. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst out of my chest. The truck screeched to a halt, the tires skidding on the wet asphalt. And just like that, the figure was gone. I looked around, windows fogging up as my breath hit the cold air inside the cab. No footprints, no sign anyone had been there. Just silence, but the kind of silence that screams. I tried to shake it off, told myself I was seeing things, tired eyes playing tricks after too many hours on the road. So I hit the gas and tried to put as much distance as possible between me and whatever that thing was. But the tunnel didn't want me to leave that easily. The fog thickened, so dense. I could barely see past the grille. The lights flickered and dimmed until it felt like I was driving blind, and then the truck started acting up. The engine sputtered, the gauges went haywire, and the radio crackled to life, blasting static and faint whispers. Words I couldn't make out, but I swear one clear phrase cut through the noise. "Turn back." I froze. The voice sounded like it was coming from the cab itself, right beside me. I glanced sideways, half expecting to see someone sitting there, but the seat was empty. No hitchhiker, no ghost, just me and the dark. The whisper came again, more urgent this time. "Turn back." I slammed my foot on the accelerator and prayed the truck would respond. For a moment it seemed like it would. The rig lurched forward, and I felt hope. But the tunnel stretched on like it had no end, curving, twisting, and shrinking around me. The fight, walls closed in, the air grew heavier, and in the rearview mirror, those black eyes appeared again. Watching. Waiting. I'm not proud to admit it, but I freaked out. Sweat dripped down my back, even though the cab was freezing cold. I wanted to scream, to pray, to do anything to escape. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The fog lifted. The lights steadied. The road opened up ahead. I burst out of the tunnel like a man possessed, not daring to look back. I didn't stop driving until the sun was coming up, and I pulled into the first truck stop I could find. I was shaking so bad I could barely sign the delivery receipt. Since that night, I haven't been the same. Every time I drive past that stretch, I swear the tunnel's still there, waiting for the next poor soul to enter the tunnel of terror. I thought that nightmare ended the moment I burst out of the tunnel, leaving the fog and those eyes behind. But I was wrong, dead wrong. The sun was just beginning to bleed orange and pink over the horizon when I finally pulled into the nearest truck stop. My rig rolled to a slow stop, and I sat there for a moment, hands gripping the wheel so tight. My knuckles turned white. My chest felt tight, like I'd run a marathon without moving an inch. The cab was cold, but sweat was dripping down my back. The cold and the sweat combined into this awful, clammy feeling I couldn't shake. I took a deep breath, tried to calm myself. After all, I'm not some rookie on the road. I've been hauling freight through everything from ice storms to blizzards for over 20 years. I've faced long, lonely nights and worn-out roads. Hell, I once drove through a tornado warning, but nothing had rattled me like that tunnel. At the truck stop, I tried to act normal. I grabbed a cup of black coffee, feeling the bitterness wake me up a little, and ordered some eggs and bacon at the diner. I sat there staring out the window, watching other drivers pull in and out like nothing was wrong. But I wasn't nothing. Inside me, a quiet storm was brewing. The radio buzzed suddenly, cutting through the diner's hum. I glanced at the screen. A text from dispatch. "Made it through the tunnel okay?" My eyes narrowed. How the hell did they know? I hadn't said a word about that tunnel to anyone. I typed back, "Yeah, what tunnel?" There was a pause before a reply popped up. "You know the tunnel of terror. Lots of drivers avoid that stretch after dark." I blinked. Avoid? After dark? Like because it's haunted or something? Curiosity gnawed at me. That night, back in the rig, I pulled out my phone and started searching. The tunnel's name showed up everywhere, online forums, news snippets, even local blogs. The stories were chilling. One driver's rig was found abandoned miles from the tunnel, with no sign of the man himself. Another spoke of phantom trucks that chased drivers inside the tunnel, only to vanish without a trace. There were rumors of strange voices on CB radios, whispers warning you to turn back, just like I heard. One forum even claimed the tunnel itself was alive, feeding off fear and trapping souls inside its walls. I wanted to laugh it off, but the more I read, the colder my skin got. That night, sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those black eyes staring at me from the fog. I heard that whisper again, soft and urgent, telling me to turn back. The whisper wasn't just in my head. The truck's radio crackled to life, the static forming words. Turn back. I ripped the radio off and slammed my fists on the steering wheel. I'm a man of logic. Mechanical issues, maybe interference. But that voice, it chilled me to the bone. I tried to bury it in work, but the tunnel kept crawling into my thoughts. Every mirror glance, every shadow, I half expected to see those eyes staring back at me. Then, late one night, the radio buzzed again, static first, then that chilling whisper. I nearly crashed. Swearing under my breath, I shut the radio off and took a deep breath. Was the tunnel reaching out to me? Was it trying to pull me back? I knew I had to see the tunnel from the outside. I had to understand what I'd driven into. The next evening, I made my way back to the mountain. The fog had rolled in thick again, hugging the road like a living creature. The tunnel's entrance was black as a void, framed by the old, cracked sign daring drivers to enter at your own risk. I stepped out of the truck, the cold biting through my jacket. The silence pressed down hard, like the whole mountain was holding its breath. As I neared the entrance, the hairs on my arms prickled, and then it hit me. A cold breath on my neck, like someone exhaling right behind me. I spun around. No one. Just the fog and silence. And then, almost too soft to hear, the whisper again. Turn back. I didn't argue. I bolted back to my rig and peeled out of there, heart pounding so loud I thought it might burst through my chest. Driving away, I realized something terrifying. The tunnel wasn't just a place, it was a presence. It remembers, and it's patient, waiting. After that night, standing frozen at the edge of that godforsaken tunnel, I was never the same behind the wheel. Every mile I logged felt like I was dragging the shadows with me, a weight I couldn't shake. The cab, usually my sanctuary after long hauls, became a cage filled with whispers and ghostly chills. The silence in the truck wasn't just quiet anymore. It was heavy, pressing against my skin, thick enough to suffocate. I swear sometimes I could feel invisible eyes watching me from the darkness outside, just barely beyond the glow of my headlights. That feeling got worse. A couple nights later, rolling down a stretch of the highway bathed in fog so thick it seemed to swallow the road whole, my dashboard flickered. Lights dimmed, then popped back on like a bad movie effect. The engine sputtered in a way I never heard before. I reached for the radio, hoping for some static or a voice to cut the tension, but instead I got a burst of white noise followed by a whisper, soft, insistent. It said, "Turn back." I froze, heart slamming against my ribs. I scanned the road and then glanced in the passenger side mirror. At first, I saw nothing. Then, there, eyes, not human, not natural, black holes glowing, faintly like embers trapped in the mist. My breath hitched. I jerked the wheel, slamming on the brakes. The tires screamed against the asphalt, and the rig shuddered to a stop. I whipped my head around, expecting to see some figure stepping out of the fog. Nothing. Just the swirling mist, swirling and curling like it had a life of its own. That night, sleep was a joke. Every time I closed my eyes, those eyes stared back at me from the mirror in my mind. The whisper echoed in the corners of my ears, cold and insistent. Turn back. Turn back. The next day, desperate for answers, I stopped. At a small gas station in the middle of nowhere. The place smelled like old diesel and stale coffee. An old man behind the counter looked like he'd been living on the road longer than most trucks on the highway. I asked him about the tunnel, His eyes darkened like he'd just seen a ghost himself. "You don't want to go messing with that place," he said low, voice gravelly. "They call it the Tunnel of Terror for a reason." I pressed. "What do you mean?" He leaned forward, voice barely above a whisper. "Drivers who go through there don't come out the same. Some never come out at all. It's like the tunnel's alive, hungry for fear, for souls. It watches you, and if you meet its gaze, you lose more than just your way." That stuck with me, like a stone in my gut. That night, as I pulled out of the gas station and hit the road, the radio sparked to life again. Static first, then a voice, low, cold, like it was right there in the cab with me. "Don't look back." My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight I could feel my nails. Biting into my palms, I drove faster. I wanted to get away. But every time I checked the rearview mirror, the darkness seemed to stretch further, and those eyes were always there, just beyond the light. It was like the tunnel had grabbed a hold of me, a piece of my soul trapped in that black void. The more I drove, the more I felt its presence wrapping tighter around me. Not just a place, but a living thing, hunting, waiting, and I was its next target. That's when the line between reality and nightmare started to blur. The road twisted into itself, shadows deepened, and every reflection whispered secrets I wasn't meant to hear. And no matter how fast I drove, the tunnel and those eyes never left me. You ever get that feeling like you're not alone? Like someone's riding shotgun with you even when the seat beside you's empty? That's how it started for me after that tunnel. Little things, almost easy to ignore, but they piled up fast, like breadcrumbs leading me deeper into some nightmare I didn't want to walk into. It began one late night, hours after I'd blasted out of that tunnel and back onto the highway. I was hauling a load of machinery, the road slick from a misty rain. The cab was quiet, just the engine humming and tires whispering on wet asphalt. Then, out of nowhere, I heard it, a faint shuffling from the sleeper cabin behind me. At first, I told myself it was the rig settling, metal contracting in the cold. But then it came again. Louder this time. Footsteps, slow and deliberate like someone pacing. I spun around. Nothing. Empty bunk. No sign of anyone. My heart thumped like a jackhammer. That night, sleep was out of the question. I stayed awake, eyes glued to the mirrors, and shadows beyond the windows. The radio flickered on and off, sometimes crackling with static, sometimes whispering things I couldn't quite catch. Words like leave, run, and the worst one, trapped. At one point I swear I felt breath on the back of my neck, cold and damp as the fog outside. The nights that followed only got worse. I started waking up on the side of deserted roads with the engine still running. No memory of pulling over. The cab felt different, heavier, like it was weighed down by something invisible. I'd look in the rearview mirror and swear I caught fleeting glimpses of a dark figure sitting just behind me. Not human, not quite there, like a shadow made flesh. Then there were the things I couldn't explain. The glove box swinging open on its own, the radio dialing up to full volume in the dead of night, blasting static until I slammed it off. Once, the steering wheel shifted slightly when I wasn't touching it, and the smell. The strangest part was the smell. A mix of stale tobacco, damp earth, and something rotten, like a graveyard in autumn. One night it hit a new level of terror. Fog had rolled in thick again, swallowing the headlights and making the world outside a swirling grey nightmare. Was crawling along at 20 miles per hour, eyes scanning for signs when I saw it. A figure standing dead center in my lane. Old man. Weathered face, ragged clothes, and eyes that seemed to burn like coal embers. I slammed the brakes, tires screaming on the asphalt, heart slamming so hard I thought it might burst. The rig shuddered to a stop just inches from him. I stared, frozen, and then he vanished, just gone, like smoke caught in the wind. My breath caught in my throat. I slammed my door and stepped out, heart pounding, scanning the foggy road. Nothing but silence. From that night on, the presence in the cab wasn't just a feeling. It was a reality. Things moved when I wasn't looking, whispered voices in the dead air. The unmistakable scent that lingered no matter how much I aired the truck out. I tried talking to friends, but they laughed it off. Just stress, man. You're burning out. But I knew the truth. The tunnel hadn't just scared me. It had claimed me. And whatever had come along wasn't ready to let go. Driving those lonely roads, I felt it, an unseen passenger riding with me, growing stronger, feeding on my fear. It was patient, waiting, and I wasn't sure if I'd make it out of this alive. Wish I could say that. By the time I hit that stretch of road again, I was ready for whatever horror it had in store. But no amount of preparation could have braced me for what came next. That night, the fog was thicker than ever, rolling in like a living thing, swallowing the road and the trees, turning the world into a grey, shifting maze. My headlights cut, weakly through the mist, illuminating nothing beyond a few feet. The first sign something was off was when I spotted the same tree again, the gnarly old oak with the twisted branches, on my right side. I'd passed it minutes ago, hadn't I? Or was it hours? I couldn't tell anymore. My pulse quickened. I glanced down at the GPS. The screen was frozen, the little blue dot that showed my location stuck in place. The map displayed a loop, a snake biting its own tail, the highway folding back on itself. I shook my head, trying to dismiss it as a glitch. But the further I drove, the more the landmarks repeated. The cracked mile marker, the rusted highway sign, even the faded billboard for some long-closed roadside diner. It felt like the road itself was playing tricks on me. I tried turning, off, taking the next exit. But when I followed the ramp, it curved and curved and curved until somehow I was back on the same stretch. Like the highway had swallowed me whole and spat me out right back where I started. The grip on the steering wheel tightened. My throat felt dry and tight. I was stuck in a nightmare loop, and no matter how hard I pressed the gas, the rig seemed to lose power, like the road was draining my strength, forcing me back. Then I saw it again. The tunnel, its black maw looming. Out of the fog, darker than any shadow, like it was alive and breathing, but this time it wasn't just a tunnel. It was a trap. I wanted to scream, to slam the brakes and turn around. But the truck had other plans. The engine revved sluggishly, like it was pushing through molasses. I gritted my teeth and forced the rig forward, every instinct screaming at me to run, but the road held me tight. That's when the presence hit me. The unseen passenger, the dark weight I'd felt all along, pressed down on me like a vice. I could hear it whispering in my ear, voices overlapping, hissing. Stay. Don't. Run. You belong here. My breath hitched. I slammed my foot on the gas, desperate to escape, but the truck was sluggish, the power draining as if some unseen force was stealing energy from the rig. And from me. The radio burst to life, static slicing through the silence, then a whisper. Barely audible but clear as day. Don't leave, you're mine. The steering wheel twitched in my hands. I fought to keep control, heart pounding so hard I thought I might lose it. And then I looked up. In the rearview mirror, glowing through the swirling fog, were those eyes again, black, hollow, unblinking, watching, judging. Hungry. It was a trap, a snare, a prison. The highway itself was alive, a nightmare loop designed to hold me, to keep me coming back, forever chasing an escape that didn't exist. And no matter how fast I drove, how many miles I put between me and that tunnel, I was caught in the road's endless nightmare. The moment I broke free from that tunnel's grip, it felt like I was waking from a long, terrifying dream. The fog thinned slowly, the heavy blanket of oppressive grey pulling back like a curtain, revealing a faint dawn. My truck's headlights finally cut through clear air instead of swirling mist. The familiar shapes of trees lined the road, real and solid. I could see the signs again, crisp letters no longer blurred or repeating. The sun was barely up, casting a pale, weak light, but it felt like freedom. I pressed the accelerator harder, the engine roaring like a beast unleashed. The feeling of weight lifted from the cab, like whatever had been dragging me down was gone. I let out a shaky breath and for a moment hoped it was all over. But hope is a cruel joke. As the miles slipped behind me, I glanced over at the passenger seat. Something caught my eye, a dusty photograph, curled at the edges, lay there as if it had appeared from nowhere. I reached over and picked it up, wiping the grime off with the back of my sleeve. The photo was old. Really old, yellowed and cracked. It showed a group of long-haul truckers posing proudly in front of the very tunnel I'd just escaped. They wore weathered jackets and worn caps, the kind of gear only veterans of the road would sport. And there, standing smack in the middle of the group, was a man with a face I knew far too well. My face. My hands trembled. The photograph slipped from my grip and fluttered to the floor like a dead leaf. A cold chill crawled over me, thick and heavy. The cab. Air turned icy. My breath fogged in front of me. Then the radio sputtered to life, static cutting through the quiet. But this time it wasn't just random crackles. Whispers filled the speakers. Urgent, sinister. Welcome back. You're part of us now. You belong. I slammed my hand on the radio to kill it, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. But the voices didn't fade. They echoed inside my head, wrapping tighter and tighter around my mind like a noose. I looked in the rearview mirror. The road behind was empty, but I felt it, the weight in the cab heavier than ever, that unseen passenger waiting. I realized something terrifying. I hadn't escaped the tunnel. I had become part of it, part of the endless loop of the haunted highway. A ghost, trapped between miles and shadows. Since that night, every time I take to the road, I see glimpses of that tunnel on the horizon, a black mouth opening wide, waiting to swallow me whole again. And every time I feel those hollow, burning eyes watching from the darkness, waiting for me to come. Back, because the road remembers. It holds on and it's always hungry. If you ever find yourself driving late on an empty highway and you see a tunnel cloaked in mist, don't drive through it. Don't listen to the whispers on the radio. Don't look back, because once you enter, you might never leave. So next time you hear a whisper on the wind or see a tunnel swallowed by fog, remember this. Some roads don't just lead somewhere. They lead you nowhere.